You are listening to the MTech Group podcast series, your source for trends about automated QA testing for the insurance industry.
Hello, Sasha. Good to talk with you again. It's certainly an exciting time for us here at MTech Group with the launch of QMT TrueXML, and we'll chat a bit about that today because it's really exciting. And one of the things that struck me when we were thinking about putting this together is that while the greatest challenges that carriers and Insurtechs alike encounter while pursuing on-time, high-quality product launches is that the transaction data files used between systems are often either incomplete or inaccurate. And this considerably lengthens the QA cycle because existing manual observation approaches to validate the data are just not scalable. And I guess I'd like to understand a bit more from your side as to what really led MTech to develop QMT TrueXML.
Great question, Rob, and nice chatting with you again. Came out of the very idea that you mentioned. There is a problem that insurance carriers and Insurtechs alike are facing. Data quality is a big issue in that space, and specifically in XML. So XML is a standard format that industry uses for transmitting data between systems, particularly or more popularly is the transmission of data between EAP and underwriting. And that data transmission and the quality of that data is very important to carriers because it is the input to their underwriting process. And having that information be accurate is important in ensuring that the underwriting process can complete and it's not thrown back to the applicant, and that the decision that is made is accurate, including the premiums or whether to give out a policy or not. So because of those problems, hearing it from customers and prospects alike, we realize that there is a burning need to address the data quality between transmission of data between systems. And so that's what really birthed the idea of QMT TrueXML. It's addressing that pain point that carriers and Insurtechs are facing today.
That certainly is important, but the way carriers and Insurtechs try to address this today is mostly through manual or scripted processes, which are often incomplete and cumbersome. How does TrueXML automate the data validation?
Great question. So you're right. Today they are doing highly manual processes, sometimes referred to as a light bulb test, or you just do a very quick spot check. What QMT TrueXML does that is a lot different is that it automates that process. It integrates it with the existing QMT framework. And by doing that, it allows the users to configure what they want to validate in their XML. And for every test case that they execute through QMT, it will find the corresponding XML for that test case, and it will execute and validate based on the configuration that the user has set up. So the effort in testing is in the configuration, which you can consider as your requirements. But everything after that, in terms of the execution, figuring out whether the XML is complete, accurate or not, getting the results of that execution, that's all automated by QMT, and it ties in very closely with the test cases that QMT's main product offers as well.
That's interesting. So it is a complementary product to QMT?
It is, yes.
Excellent. Now, when we think about the validation of the data, I guess what we're trying to do, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is really validate the data for completeness as well as accuracy. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Sure. You're spot on with that. So we do check for completeness and accuracy. Both are equally important. With completeness, we're checking for the presence of required attributes that the user stipulates in their configuration that they want to check for. That ensures that the XML tag is present, and within that XML tag, a value is also present. In addition to that, we also check for the accuracy of the data once it is present. So if your policy you expect to have Kevin Williams as the policy holder, we will check for that value in your XML in a particular tag that it has Kevin Williams. If it has anything other than Kevin Williams, that's considered to be inaccurate. And in that case, we will raise an exception for you and give you side-by-side comparison of the expected value versus the actual value that we were able to find in the XML for that particular test case.
So the user will actually see the error and be able to identify it early in the process. Is that right?
Absolutely.
And I'm going to guess, so here's another problem that I was thinking about, but what about if the XML information is changing? Or, are we just looking at a happy path, for example? Or does TrueXML go beyond that?
It goes beyond that, and it's really driven by what the user wants to cover. And so that's the neat thing about it being integrated with QMT. QMT, the core product, will generate your test cases, and that is based on your business process. So when you model your business process, if you've included negative scenarios that you want to test, you will get test cases for negative and positive scenarios, and then an extension of that, you can set up your XML configuration for those test cases. And so what that means is that you can validate XMLs for positive use cases and negative use cases. It's very flexible. It depends on whatever the user wants to validate. The options are there for them to do that.
So at the end of the day, we're going to provide the user with, I'm assuming, easy to understand reports that have detailed results, correct?
That is correct. So
and
users
what are the
will be able
benefits
to
of that?
pinpoint. They can pinpoint their issues more quickly. And with doing that, they can resolve them quickly and then rerun the test if they need to, and do that as many times as it gets them to a foolproof XML for ingestion into underwriting.
This has to improve margin at the end of the day and distributor satisfaction, but it also has to reduce reputational risk, I'm sure. So is this a codeless or coded verification process?
It is codeless. So the user, they are not updating scripts, they're not updating test cases. They're simply coming and setting up their configuration of what they want to validate, what elements. So they will identify to us the XML elements and any formatting that they want to apply to the value to ensure that the expected value and the target value match. But it's only configurations. There's no need to set up any scripts or anything of that nature to get the XML validation going.
Then that's got to really add to the automation of the process and really eliminates the time spent on manual development and maintenance. And this can only increase QA throughput and reduce, cycle time to drive more business on the books and do it sooner. This is a tremendous product, it sounds like. And can you give me some feel for the ease of use and who can use this product?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start in the QA space. Anyone that's currently in the QA space as deck members, QA personnel, they obviously are users because they are currently in that space and they know how it works. But the neat thing about QMT is that it doesn't only cater to technical persons in the QA space. It can also be used by business analysts who are close to the product but not necessarily overly technical. Our product is set up such that they can be users of that product. You can also have persons in product management that again are close to the requirements because that's really what you're setting up in QMT. They can use it as well. So it is a product that can be used by highly technical people and not so technical people as well.
That's really interesting, and it obviously changes the landscape of QA, I would think, in not only the carrier space, but in the technical solution provider side of the conversation as well. When we think about simplifying change management and how it applies to this specific application of change management within the XML data configuration, can you go into a little more detail on that? And does that apply to a particular Accord transaction?
Right. So change management is quite straightforward. As mentioned, the user is not going into scripts or test cases. They are simply maintaining the configurations that they want to use as part of the validation process. So where there is a change to the location of a particular element, they will come to their configuration and update it there. if there is a change to the format of a particular element, they can come to their configuration and make the change there. Or if expected value changes from one to another, they can come to their configuration and make it there. So it's all in one central location. It's not highly technical, the nature of changes that they will need to make. And it takes them a couple seconds or up to a minute, depending on how many changes that they're making. So it is all user-friendly through an interface. And in terms of where we've started our focus for XML validation, we have focused for the time being on the XMLs that are used to transmit data between the EAP and underwriting. So most commonly referred to as the Accord 103. That's where we've decided to start the validation process, but that will be expanded upon in the future.
Sasha, getting back to some of the reasons that QMT TrueXML was developed, I think about especially carriers referring to us about experiencing increases in NIGO rates and really trying to reduce that reputational risk that is associated with NIGO rates. Can you take a second and tell us a bit how TrueXML will help carriers reduce their NIGO rates?
When I think of NIGO rates, the key issues contributing to that is incomplete or inaccurate data for underwriting to use in their decision-making process. And those are the two things that QMT TrueXML focuses on in their validation process. So think about it. NIGO rates not in good order means how many applications am I getting in that I can't properly make a decision on, either because I don't have the required information, so required fields are missing, or because I have inaccurate information and I can't make a decision based on that either. So with QMT TrueXML, we are checking that required fields are present. We're checking that the required fields, once present, are accurate based on the expected value inputted by the user. And with those two areas being covered, you're going to ensure that what the underwriter is looking at is complete, it's accurate, and if that is happening on every application that they're receiving, then their NIGO rates are going to go down because they can make an accurate decision and either issue a policy or choose not to with the correct information in hand.
That makes a ton of sense. But if you also think about it, getting a product out to market and getting to the point where you reduce the NIGO rates for applications, et cetera, is even or maybe more critical to the situation. I've heard time and again from distribution folks at carriers as well as marketing and product folks from carriers that it just takes so long to get a new product to market. How can QMT TrueXML assist a carrier with that as well?
First off, it changes testing in this space from manual, which anything that's manual will take time, to automated. So the very fact that it's shifting the nature of testing from something that's manual and not fulsome in terms of its coverage to something that's automated and with better coverage, you immediately speed up your testing cycle. And that means you're identifying your defects earlier, you're resolving them earlier. And not only are you going to market sooner, you're going to market with a product that has been tested and the defects largely resolved.
Wow, I can really see why you mentioned that this product is truly a game changer, because it not only substantially reduces the reputational risk from errors, but it brings the product to market so much quicker. And obviously, if we can do that, think about the amount of margin that can be developed from bringing a product to market 3, 4, 5 months sooner than originally thought in a business plan.
Absolutely. That's why QMT TrueXML is indeed a game changer.
That's great to know. And Sasha, is there anything else that you'd like to comment on with respect to QMT TrueXML that I may have forgotten about?
Other than saying it is a game changer, it will expedite the testing of a currently very manual space. And with that, carriers and Insurtechs and customers of these carriers will have increased confidence that the policies that they're getting, the decisions that are being made from the data that's being passed between these systems are accurate and complete. And I think that will lead to increased reputational image in the industry and more higher margins and more revenue.
That's terrific, Sasha. And thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me today. If people would like to learn a bit more about QMT TrueXML, they can certainly go to our website, mtechgroup.com, or check us out on other podcasts as well. Thanks again, Sasha.
Thanks, Rob. Great chatting with you again.